Please.
Okay, so I guess you see my slide.
See your screen. Maybe you could put it as a full screen, full presentation.
I will try, but it's usually. Do you see them now? Do you see the slides moving?
No, we see the first slide, and I see the first slide.
It's better.
Now they're moving. Okay, there is some.
I will remain this way. It will work better.
If you want.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks a lot for proposing me to talk about this today. So this is actually a talk I have made already with some of the people present here. So it's about the path large deviation for kinetic theories. So I want to describe the fluctuation around the classical kinetic theory, for instance, the Boltzmann equation, the Landau equation, or the Balescu-Guernsey-Lennard kinetic equation. So today I will speak mainly of the last one, the Balescu-Guernsey-Leonard kinetic equation, and try to describe the large deviation rate function that describe the fluctuation around this classical kinetic theories. So it's a work that I have done with Wassim Feliachi. So Wassim was a master student working with me, and he just began a PhD now with Julien Barré in France, in Orléans. So I will give you first a rapid definition of large deviation theory. I guess most of you know this, but just to fix the definition. So large deviation theory, it's a general framework to describe probability distribution in asymptotic limits. For instance, you have a random variable x epsilon, and you look at the probability that x epsilon is equal to x. And then if you find that asymptotically, this PDF goes like exponential of minus f of x divided by epsilon, where this symbol here means logarithm equivalence. The log of the left-hand side is equivalent to the log of the right-hand side. Then we call this a large deviation principle, where f is the large deviation rate function and epsilon is the large deviation rate or large deviation parameter. And so it's something which is very important and very useful in many aspects of statistical mechanics. For instance, in equilibrium statistical mechanics, F is usually the free energy and epsilon kBt divided by n, or F could be any of the thermodynamical potential depending on the statistic ensemble you use. So here today I want to discuss path large deviation. Path here means that I will describe the large deviation not for static quantities, but I will discuss large deviation for the stochastic process, large deviation for dynamics. So large deviation for path. So I will be dealing with kinetic theory. So many times in kinetic theory, what you try to describe is the empirical distribution. So the empirical distribution is just 1 over n, the sum from n equal 1 to n of the delta Dirac of the velocity minus the velocity of the particle n, delta of r, the position, minus the position of the particle n. So it's basically a density in the space Rv, the mu space, and it's a density that depends on time. And so here we have n particles, they all have a position r and v, and we look at the density in a one particle space. So this is the empirical density. And so what the classical kinetic theory tells you, it is an equation that describes the evolution for the average of Gn, or an evolution for the typical value for Gn, or something like that, depending on the interpretation. So here what I want to argue today is that you should be able, with the kinetic theory, to describe not just the average evolution or the typical evolution, but you can describe also the fluctuation. And so, for instance, if you look at the probability that Gn is equal to G, where G is any function which is prescribed a priori, then we will be able to prove that it goes like the exponential of an action divided by epsilon. So this action will be the supremum over P of a time integral of something which has an Hamiltonian structure. So here G is the prescribed value for the empirical distribution. P is a function which is conjugated to G dot. G dot is the time derivative of G. And H is a functional rather, that depends on G and P. And basically, if you know this functional H, you know the action by time integration. So you know basically the weight of any evolution G. So you expect that the most probable evolution will be the solution of the kinetic equation. So you expect that the minimum of this action would be the kinetic equation. But here we have something that actually quantify the probability of any other evolution. So here I have put some epsilon. So the epsilon that matter will depend on the kinetic theory. And so the two basic questions I want to address today is this true? Can we actually compute H? And can we actually explain what should be epsilon and compute epsilon? So I will discuss that briefly for the Boltzmann equation, and then I will explain it for the Balescu-Lenard-Guernsey equation, which describes kinetic theory for plasma and systems with long-range interaction. So this function H basically summarizes all the relevant statistical information you need for the evolution. It describes the kinetic equation, it describes the fluctuation around the value of the kinetic equation, and it describes the rare fluctuation. So basically it contains all the relevant statistical information. And so it gives you something like a statistical field theory for the effective evolution of the large-scale dynamics. So my main motivation is to do that for non-equilibrium problems, for instance, geostrophic turbulence, the kinds, something which is somehow similar to the end of the talk of Raf before, but I will not discuss that today. Today I want to discuss more basic and classical application. So for instance, I will discuss the dynamics of a dilute gas that leads to the Boltzmann kinetic equation to start with. So here I have taken this two pictures from classical textbooks in statistical mechanics, Reif textbooks. So you see here just a Joule expansion. You put all your particles in the left of this box. There is a wall. You open the wall and you look at how the particle rapidly fill all the box. And so you can look at the dynamics of n, the number of particles in the left part of the box, and you see that it will quickly relax from its initial value that was out of equilibrium to the equilibrium value, which is just 1/2 of the total numbers of particles. And so this is the relaxation. And so in a sense, this relaxation should be described by the Boltzmann equation, for instance, if you have a dilute gas. From the Boltzmann equation, you should be able to compute the average value of the particles. And so this is what you find in classical textbooks in statistical mechanics. You find what is the equilibrium value. This is just the Einstein law. You find the relaxation, which is described by the Boltzmann equation. But you know that the dynamics is time reversible. So you may expect to see the same evolution, but the other way around, changing the the sign of time. Or you may actually expect to see any evolution. So you could see the density of n here rising and then decreasing again. And you know that this is possible because the dynamic is time reversible. But in a classical statistical mechanics textbooks, you don't find what is the probability to see this. You don't find the probability to see this from the dynamics for this. And so this is exactly what this will help you to do. I mean, it will help you to give the probability for the seeing and a non-equilibrium evolution, whatever it is. So it's a very basic and important complement to what you can find in classical textbooks in statistical mechanics. So this is my second motivation. So in the case of a dilute gas, I mean, the relaxation is described by the Boltzmann equation. So I guess most of you know the Boltzmann equation. I will briefly remind it. So G here is something like the average in some sense of the empirical distribution, and it evolved according to just a free transport. And then you have this collision operator here. So W is the collision kernel. So you have the particle with velocity v prime 1 and v prime 2 that collides to give velocity v and v2. And then this operator here is quadratic because it describes two-body collision. It is a product because in the dilute gas limit, you can replace the 2 points correlation function by products of 1 point correlation function. And so you have one contribution for incoming particles with velocity v, and another contribution with a sign minus for outgoing velocity with velocity. And so you expect, if you start from the empirical distribution, so you expect that if you consider statistics now, and statistics on an ensemble of initial conditions, so you can choose, for instance, an ensemble of initial conditions such that Gn is close to some G naught, then you expect that the limit when L goes to infinity of Gn, in some sense, should go to G, where G will be a solution of the Boltzmann equation. So in this sense, the Boltzmann equation is a kind of a law of a large number. And so for large n of n, you expect that for almost all initial conditions and for a finite time, Gn should remain close to G of t, where G solves the Boltzmann equation, with G of t equals 0 is G0. But it cannot be like this for any solution, for any initial condition, because you know that the process is time reversible. So you should be able to describe something else. For this, we need to describe the other possible trajectory and their probability. And so we should describe Gn beyond the law of large number. So we may like to describe Gaussian fluctuation, but we may like to describe also the large deviation. And so the result for this, for the Boltzmann equation, is written here. So we actually have a large deviation weight function like this. So epsilon in this case is the inverse of the number of particles in a volume of the size of a mean free path. And so this is natural because basically particle travel on a size of a mean free path, and the numbers of collision you will get on a time which is the time you need to change by order 1 the empirical distribution is exactly the inverse of epsilon, the numbers of particles in a volume of the size of a mean free path. So the system behaves just like if you add independent collision, and the numbers of independent collision you get is exactly 1 divided by epsilon. And so that's why you get here a term which is epsilon. And so the Hamiltonian for Boltzmann is given by this formula here. So there is a transport term which I have not written, ht, and a collision term which is written here. So you see that it is quadratic in G, and then you have an exponential factor where you have P for the two incoming particles, and minus P for the two outgoing particles, and minus 1. And so this time of exponential factor is very common to Poisson process. And what this tells you is that basically, if you assume that the particle collide through a local Poisson point process, then you expect to have this Hamiltonian here. So Razakandlu has proven this for a Boltzmann-like model, a toy model in 98 with a formula which is very analogous to this one. So I have argued myself that you just need to make the same assumption of Boltzmann, basically that you have this locally point Poisson process in order to derive this formula very easily. And Thierry, Isabelle, Laure, and Sergio have given a proof of something which is equivalent to the validity of this result, which is valid for short time, a bit in the spirit of the proof for the validity of the Boltzmann equation for valid for short time. But because of the simple argument to get the result, it is actually expected that the result is valid for much longer time. So today, there is a third motivation. The third motivation is that if you are able to find H, there is something that I will not explain today, which allow you to write the kinetic equation this way. So rho should be G here, dg over dt is minus the gradient of some functional, that would be the entropy for the equilibrium case, plus G, where the gradient of the functional scalar product with G is equal to 0. And then here there is this sign. I mean, it's a gradient with respect to a very specific metric. And so you have a gradient structure associated to any kinetic equation with a metric which is very specific and which is adapted to the kinetic equation. And so this metric structure is known for some problems, but it was not really known for the Boltzmann equation, and it was not known for the Landau equation or for the Lenard-Balescu equation. And so from knowing H, we are able to describe the metric in order to have this gradient decomposition for the kinetic equation. So this is more a mathematical motivation, but it is also very important because then once you have this structure, you know that F will be a Lyapunov functional, and you know exactly how fast this Lyapunov functional should decrease along the trajectories. So my plan today is to explain you how to get this similar result for the Landau and the Balescu-Lenard-Guernsey equation, which are classical kinetic theory that describe plasma and that describe other systems with long-range interaction, for instance, point vortices, or for 2D turbulence, or for instance, self-gravitating star. So actually, I will not describe the Vlasov equation because of lack of time, but it is a sub result of result for the Balescu-Guernsey-Lenard equation. So some part will be a bit technical because I want to explain where it comes from. So if you need to, please don't hesitate to stop me to ask any question. So I start with the Hamiltonian dynamics of n particle where there is a two-body interaction. So there is the Hamiltonian is written here. So you have the kinetic energy, and then you have a sum over the couples of particles of W of Rn minus Rm. So it's just a two-body interaction. And here it is scaling with 1 over n. This is a strange scaling, but this is called the mean field scaling. But it is a scaling which is very natural when you study point vortices, for instance, or when you study plasma. Actually, for a plasma, n is the number of particles in a volume of the size of the Debye length, and n is related to the plasma parameter. You just have to make a change of time scale and a spatial scale to get this form for a plasma. And then this gives you this Hamiltonian dynamics. dr over dt is v, dv over dt is minus 1 over n of the effect of all the other particle on the particle you are interested in. So it's rather easy to make a kinetic theory because you see that you are summing over n particles. So you will have a self-averaging effect, and basically you will be able to assume that you will be approximate this by a mean field, and this will give you a good first approximation. And then you will be able to describe this approximation at next order to describe the long-term evolution and to describe the large deviation, as I will discuss today. So the first thing you find in a plasma textbook is that the GN, the empirical distribution, it solves exactly what is called the Klimovich equation. Actually, you need for this W to be smooth enough, but it's just a formal rewriting of the Liouville equation, if you wish, for the empirical distribution. So then there is a classical set of work in mathematics that show you that if you take an ensemble of initial conditions such that Gn is always close to some G naught, where G naught is now a smooth function, then there is a law of large number. For almost all initial conditions, you expect that the limit when n goes to infinity of Gn is G, where G will solve the Vlasov equation. So the Vlasov equation is written here. So it's exactly just the same as the Klimovich equation. So I have just changed Gn by G, and now the interpretation is slightly different because now G is a smooth distribution, and you expect it to evolve smoothly. And so this is actually just a stability result for the Klimovich equation or for the Vlasov equation. And so, for instance, mathematically, it was proven by Braun and Epp in 77, sorry, for smooth interaction, and then other mathematicians have proven it for interaction which are not smooth. So this equation is Hamiltonian, it conserves the energy, and it conserves an infinite numbers of Casimir, conserved quantity. But you still expect that if you wait long enough, you will see the Boltzmann distribution at the end. But this equation clearly does not converge to the Boltzmann equation. And so if you want to look at the relaxation to the Boltzmann equation, to the Boltzmann distribution, sorry, then you need to go to next order and to describe what's happening on a longer time scale. So in order to do that, I will assume that I am close to some stationary solution of the Vlasov equation, which is very natural because the dynamics very fast relax to close to some stationary solution of the Vlasov equation. For instance, here, for simplicity, I will describe the case of homogeneous solution. So I will assume that G of R and V is F naught and of V. Then you have the classical stability study of the Vlasov equation, and you find that you have a function epsilon, which is called the dielectric susceptibility, and it plays the role of a dispersion relation for the linearized dynamics. So this is the formula for epsilon. And then basically from epsilon, you know what are all the wave. So it is a dispersion relation. And from this, you can describe the evolution of the linear dynamics. So here I will assume that my F naught is stable, which is equivalent to say that the epsilon defined like that never vanish. So here W hat is just the Fourier transform of W. So the point is that there are an infinite numbers of stable homogeneous distribution F naught of V, and they play the role of attractor for the Vlasov equation. But then there are many of them. So the question is, what will happen for a long time? So if we actually have n particle dynamics, if we start from an ensemble of initial condition Fn, which is close to a homogeneous stable F naught of V, what will happen after a very long time? So on the time scale of the Vlasov equation, nothing occurs because the equation is stable. But if you wait on time scale of order tau equal to n, then there will be an evolution. And this evolution is governed by what is called the Vlasov equation or the Balescu-Guernsey-Lennard equation. So this is a classical piece of theoretical physics that has been derived in the 60s and 70s. And so basically you rescale time, you write t is n tau, and you expect that for almost all initial conditions, the limit when n comes to infinity of Gn is f, where f solve this equation here, which is called the Balescu-Lennard-Guernsey equation. So it's df over d tau is this operator where you have a quadratic part for f, and you have this tensor b here, which formula is written here. It depends on the Fourier component of the potential, on epsilon, the dielectric function, and you see that you have terms just like in wave kinetic equation, for which you see that in order for something to happen, you need to have resonance between the different particles through the frequency W here. So this was first derived by Guernsey. Well, I have heard that it has been derived by Bogolyubov, but I have not seen any reference yet. And so it's for smooth enough W, there is an exact derivation of this equation in the sense of theoretical physics. So there is no mathematical proof. But if you make some very natural assumption, then you make computation which are exact, and you get this equation through a quasi-linear approximation. And so this is, for instance, what you find in the Lifshitz-Petajevsky book on kinetic theory, or this is also what you find on Nicholson textbooks on plasma. So those things are quite technical. You have in Nicholson, you have an appendix with 20 pages dealing with operators, transform in the complex plane, and so on and so forth. But you can go through the derivation, and you can find that after making a quasi-linear approximation, you find this operator. So the Landau equation is just the same. It is when you approximate epsilon by 1. An approximation which is valid when you are looking at scale which are much smaller than the Debye length scale and much larger than the typical, than the mean free path. And so then you get an equation which is slightly simpler because B does not depend on F anymore. So there are nice property of this kinetic equation. It conserves mass, momentum, and kinetic energy because it just describes the exchange of energy between the particles. So it also increases monotonically the entropy, as you might expect, because at leading order, the particles are independent. So when you expect this S to be the correct entropy, and then it is increased monotonically by this equation. And it converges towards the Boltzmann distribution for the corresponding energy if you wait for a time which is long enough. So the way it is derived is rather simple in principle, although the computations are complex. You decompose Gn like this. So you say that you project Gn over the homogeneous distribution by integrating over R. And then you say that Gn is Fn, the homogeneous part, plus some fluctuations which are small. And the fluctuations are of order of 1/√n because we are dealing with distribution. And basically we are mixing together n particles which are at leading order, not correlated. So it's natural to have this and that. Then you put this and that in the Klimontovich equation, and you find that dfn over dt is these terms where you have a quadratic interaction, and these terms where you have a linear interaction plus this nonlinear one. And then I have put n here in this equation in red, and so you see that the evolution for Fn will be slow because you have 1/n here compared to the evolution for the fluctuation that will be fast. And here, this term is sub-leading order, so I will neglect it. And so if I do this, if I neglect this, then I get what is called the quasi-linear approximation, where you just have to solve this coupled equation between Fn and delta Gn. So you see that this is very natural. And then you solve this, making the Bogoliubov hypothesis, basically assuming that because the evolution for Fn is much slower, I will replace in this equation Fn by F, where F is changing adiabatically. And then I have a linear equation for G that I can solve, and I can then compute the full statistics of this term here. And so this is what is done in classical textbooks for plasma. And what you find is the evolution for the average. And then when you look at the evolution for the average, you get exactly the Lenard-Balescu kinetic equation, which is written. But it's natural to expect that if you look at now, not just the average, but you look at the probability that Fn is equal to F, you should expect a large deviation rate function this way, with n being now the large deviation parameter. Why? I will come back to this, but it's basically because you are making time averaging of something, of a slow fast dynamics, and the difference between the two time scale is the ratio of the two time scale is n. So that's why you get n in factor here. So I expect such a statistical field theory to be correct. And what are the other expectations for it? So of course I expect that the most probable evolution should be the kinetic equation. So now if I look at the most probable evolution, which is given by this equation in terms of h, it should be the same as the Lenard-Balescu equation. Then it should also conserve the mass, the momentum, and the kinetic energy. So I have a symmetry relation for this statistical field theory that tells you that all this is conserved. And I also expect that the quasi-potential for this large deviation theory should be the entropy. So moreover, there is a time reversal symmetry. And so there is a specific symmetry that I should be able to verify for this H, which is written here. So this symmetry for H is equivalent to the detailed balance at the level of large deviation. So what I want to show now is that we can actually compute H, and that H has all the expected properties. So Miguel, how much time do I have?
Okay, so you should end in 10 minutes. I mean, in 10 minutes, everything should be over. So maybe
Okay.
5 minutes plus 5 minutes of questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me tell you how we want to do that. So I already told you that if I assume the quasi-linear dynamics, which is very natural, then we have a slow-fast dynamics. And so this is the slow-fast dynamics. And so we know how to compute the large deviation for slow-fast dynamical system. So this is the plan we have. So I will explain you how to compute path large deviation for slow-fast dynamics. This is something which is classical in large deviation theory. Then I will explain you how we can compute explicitly large deviation for quadratic observable of Gaussian processes. This is what would be needed technically. We'll use what is called the Szego-Widom theorem. And then we will compute explicitly some functional determinants that comes in this theory in order to compute the H we need. Then we can write the formula for H and verify all its symmetry properties, the time reversal symmetries, the conservation laws, the entropy, and the quasi-potential. So this I will not present it today, but we have done it. And possibly we may like to justify this quasi-linear approximation or check at least that it is self-consistent. So this is in blue, this is something we have not done yet. So if you have a slow-fast dynamics, so for instance, here you have dx over dt is f of x and y, and dy over dt is 1 over epsilon g plus 1 over square root of epsilon h dw over dt. This is an example of a slow-fast dynamics. When epsilon will be very small, then the equation for y will evolve very fast, and then you expect to see x will see an average over time of this function small f. And so basically you see on this plot, the green line is represent y as a function of time, and the blue lines represent x as a function of time. So you see that x, there is a zoom here, you see that x follow, there is its average here, and x follow its average with some small excursion. So if you want to describe this excursion, you will have to look at the value of f, the fluctuation of the value of f. Actually, you will have to look at the value of the time average of f on average, because we will describe the process on time scale of much longer than the typical time scale for y. So then you want to look at the statistics of time average of f, where you have fixed x and you let y evolve. And so this is the quantity of interest. So now we will compute its cumulant generating function. So we multiply by some p. We'll take the exponential, we take the average of the process for y, and we take the log. And so it has to be rescaled this way, 1 over t. And this will define us h. And the classical result is that actually the path large deviation for x is given by this action, where L is the Legendre functional transform of H. So this is the classical result. And so this is the way we want to compute H. So if I apply this to my problems, my plasma waves problems, I obtain that H should be this formula. I mean, I should look at the fast dynamics for G, look at the quadratic term, take its average, multiply by P, integrate from 0 to T, compute the exponential, the log, and then this will give me the functional H. And so then you see that if you want to do that, if you want to compute this average, actually because we assume that it's a quasi-linear, the equation for the fluctuation G is linear, then we have a Gaussian process, and we are looking at quadratic functional for a Gaussian process. And so this is something for which we are able to make explicit computation. So it involves 2 steps, and we will be able to get the following result. If you have a stationary Gaussian process, if you want to compute a quadratic form like this, its time integral and the log of the average of its exponential, then you can prove that for large time, it goes like minus t divided by 4 pi, multiplied by the integral of over omega, where omega is the frequency. And here you have the log of the determinant of an operator, which is given by the Fourier transform of the correlation matrix of your process. So this is this result I want to explain briefly. So this is, in order to get this result, there is 2 steps. First, because we are making Gaussian integration of quadratic functionals, then we can express everything in terms of the determinant of something, just like when you compute the normalization factor for a Gaussian. But the point is that it is a functional determinant. It's a function. It's a determinant for an operator that depends on both time and your spatial variable. So this kinds of functional determinants is usually quite difficult to compute explicitly. But here there will be a first simplification because we will look at the limit for large time. So in the limit for large time, we use something which is called the Szego-Wiedomt theorem. And I have learned this with my colleague Oleg Zaboronsky for Warwick University. So if you have an integral operator on a functional space like this, then you can, the Szego-Wiedomt theorem tells you that the log of the determinant of the identity plus this operator is given by this formula here, where now you see we have an integral over the frequency of the log of the determinant of another operator, but now the operator is no more time dependent. It is the operator that does not depend on time anymore. And you see that here you see appearing the Fourier transform of this operator. So this way, using the Szego-Wiedomt theorem, we were able to go from functional determinant in velocity, position, space, and time towards the determinants just in velocity and space.
Freddy, sorry to interrupt you, but you have just a few minutes to close your talk.
Okay. So then there is a last step, which is the fact that we are actually able to compute this determinant for this Lenard-Balescu equation. So we are able to compute it for some reason I don't explain now because I don't have time, but we can make an explicit computation of everything here. And when we have computed everything, the determinants, then we find this explicit expression for the Hamiltonian that describes the large deviation for the Lenard-Balescu equation. So you see that you have to integrate over all the waves, all the frequency, and all the wave number. So you have the log of 1 minus some functional, and the functional is explicit. It is written here. So it is quadratic with respect to f and linear in p for these terms. And here you have another term which is quadratic in both f and p. So here you have the explicit equation for A. And so basically we have a closed formula for H in order to describe the large deviation. And so the conclusion is that we have derived the Hamiltonian for the path large deviation for the empirical density of systems with long-range interaction. So it's related to the Balescu-Lenard-Guernsey equation. We have also done the same work for the Landau equation. So actually then the Hamiltonian is quadratic, while a remarkable property here is that the Hamiltonian is not quadratic. It means that the large deviations are not described by Gaussian fluctuation. And so this gives us a gradient structure for both kinetic theory. And so we can check, as expected, that the Hamiltonian are time reversible symmetric. They conserve mass, momentum, and energy. And the entropy is quasi-potential as expected. So thank you for your attention. Sorry
Okay,
if I
thanks, Freddy. Thanks a
beyond.
lot.